Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Progressive Pop Postmortem, uh, which is about the podcast Progressive Pop, which is a podcast about pop culture, looking at pop culture through a progressive lens. I just read it off the website because I never remember it, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. So this series looks at, much like the podcast itself, looks at the film that we just watched and reviewed. There's stuff that we leave out and we talk about, and we kind of mention that is incorrect. And so we did that with Wayne's World recently, and so there's a couple topics that we want to bring up and address. Just so there's a conversation happening around them, and we don't forget them, because we always want to be thinking about, there's so much stuff going on in movies. Both front up text and subtext, and mini layers and all that kind of junk and stuff that will change as our views change and our education changes. But anyways, stuff that we needed to address. So first off, I just realized this. I needed to apologize to the Beastie Boys. I had conflated Woodstock 1994, Woodstock 1999, and some not random, but an address from the Beastie Boys about Woodstock 1999, and pushed them all together into one thing. And I don't think the Beastie Boys were even at either Woodstock, having looked at it afterwards. But I thought the Beastie Boys had been at Woodstock performing when the sexual assaults had happened at Woodstock 1999. That is untrue. Beastie Boys were never there. You can dismiss. We could have probably cut out that section of the conversation, but it's always good to keep these parts in, I think, in podcasts, because conversations conversations are loose and messy, and should be that way. And I don't like over editing conversations, but so that's why we do the postmortem, so we can correct that. So sorry, Beastie Boys, it was my fault. I misremembered the whole thing. So moving on from there to the film Wayne's World, there is a cop called Officer Koharski, I think, who's a beat cop, local beat cop. Looks nothing like the cops you see on TV. He's got short sleeves, typical cop hat from like 1950s or something. They just kind of walking around patrolling. But he is super, super friendly and gets along with the kids. For example, Wayne, Garth, and the crew from Wayne's World. And so the question is, would he have gotten along with anyone else if he was in Chicago proper rather than in a suburb of Chicago, in Aurora? Probably not. Maybe not. Also background, ethnicity, economic level of Wayne and Garth. Would he have gotten along with them? Questionable. You already know that he is a law and order cop type of dude. I mean, cops, law and order, they go hand in hand. But he had a drug bust, a band on a bus, took them all out, cavity searches for everyone, because they couldn't find the drugs on the bus after a tip, so they had to do cavity searches. That's crazy. That's over the top, in my opinion. There's no need to do a cavity search if you don't find the drugs on the bus that you not randomly saw, but you get a tip from. I don't know. War on drugs, not a fan of either way. Then you get to the officer being asked to, at the end of the movie, being asked to help out Wayne and Garth, for this plan that Wayne has to stick it to the producer. I forget his name, but Rob Lowe's character. And so the officer complies. He pulls over Rob Lowe and then does a search, like just a general, I guess, interrogation, search or whatever. then has him step out and then does a cavity search. This is what we mean when we say all cops are bad, ACAB. This cop is not a good cop. He does cavity searches for teenagers. He doesn't know Rob Lowe from Adam. He just stops him to help out Wayne and Garth. I say teenagers. Wayne and Garth are not teenagers. They're like in their 20s. But, you know, he goes, he helps out these metalheads because he's friendly with them. You know, does them a favor, you know, kind of look the other way and does a cavity search on a random dude. And for all Rob Lowe's badness, again, doesn't deserve a cavity search. Not cool. So we see that in Wayne's World. This corrupt cop who, you know, doesn't seem corrupt in the aspect of like going around shooting people or taking drug money, but he is willing to bend the law as he sees fit to help somebody that he knows. What else would he be willing to do for Wayne and Garth, or for somebody he really likes up here, his own age, or his significant other, or his kids? That's, you know, questionable. Where does it stop for this guy? Okay, so cops in Wayne's World. Cops bad. We got it. The next one, fourth wall in Wayne's World. Really didn't talk about the fourth wall, and Wayne does it a lot. And I think it's a, God, how do I want to put this? It's a interesting technique that the movie, and I think a lot of movies and film and TV series do this. You can think of like Zach from Saved by the Bell. Who else does this? I can't remember. It's also just a trope of like comedians telling a joke, looking at the audience, and, you know, bringing the audience in on the joke. Hey, we're in this together. That hey, we're into this together, that Wayne tries to create or creates with the audience, does two things. It does create this charisma and adds to the charisma that Mike Myers already has and the character of Wayne already has, that we as an audience are like, that guy's cool, Wayne is cool, I like that character, I'm on that guy's side. And so that does, like, the first is like, yeah, we got it, we're on Wayne's side, we're buying into the character. The second is, and this kind of harkens back to, in the podcast we talk about Wayne not being his authentic self in a lot of cases, but being his authentic self in the Cantonese conversation he has with Cassandra, that's played for laughs, but he's being like vulnerable and serious about his ex-girlfriend. He does that too with the asides in the fourth wall breaking. You can see there's a moment when he's like getting angry and he's like, I lost my girlfriend, I lost my best friend, and by the way, you, and the camera guy starts leaving, he's like, oh, hold on. But those are like simultaneously a way to like connect the audience with Wayne and us to be on his side, but also kind of distance feelings that Wayne has and authenticity that Wayne has and vulnerability that Wayne has as a joke, and removing it, because in the movie, when the characters are all talking to each other and we're just viewing it, that's reality. When a character looks at the camera and is talking to us, reality, the reality of the movie is broken. It's no longer real. And so that becomes superficial and fake. And so what he does in that becomes superficial and fake, even though it does continue to make this connection between us, the audience, and the movie, or Wayne, the character, and also Wayne's world being the universe within the movie Wayne's World. I know it's weird, um, but it's I think it's an interesting thing to think about and consider with Hollywood, of how they rope the audiences into liking a character or getting them on their side. Um, and then also kind of like playing with the character's vulnerability, and you know it's still there, so you get that taste, but the concentration is on the comedy and his goofiness and how strange the film is. And it's a great film, but it doesn't, Hollywood the system, Hollywood the movie, or Hollywood the movies will not allow comedic characters to have this sense of like realistic vulnerability. I won't say hyper because it's not, but it's but like at the same level as equal to the comedy. It's just not happening. That's then you start getting to like dramedy, I guess, but or sincerity. You don't have the sincerity, and I think I've just thought of like Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is able to do that. But when I watch Ted Lasso, I wonder how many other shows can do that, and how hard that would be for a bunch of shows to do that. But they don't have a fourth wall. Also, they don't break it. But there's a level of sincerity and vulnerability there in those characters that you only get glimpses of and are treated as jokes in Wayne's World. So anyways, that's another aspect I wanted to talk about. The fourth wall was a big part of the movie, and we didn't touch on it. I think it's not necessarily a big deal, but it just kind of underlines a lot of the stuff that goes on in the Wayne's World movie and in Hollywood movies in general. That's it for the Postmortem. Hopefully I recorded this correctly, and we've got our next episode coming up soon, and I'm going to be recording book reviews and stuff soon, so stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. That's it. Thanks.